Story 1. It is a byproduct of social media that plays on our evolutionary traits. We are designed to seek that dopamine release because, in the wild, it would have been rare and primarily derived from finding something crucial to our survival or social structure. It is genuinely not beneficial. Story 2. I am concerned that many people accept the premise of random social media posts as fact. Story 3. I am interested in how one scientifically measures attention span. What is the study being cited here? Story 4. It sounds like pseudoscience that creates appealing headlines and aligns with an ongoing moral panic, but it is ultimately meaningless. I would like to see a caveman concentrate on Excel for 7.5 hours a day. Story 5. I believe this is a result of being excessively advertised to. People are reluctant to commit time to a video that does not meet their needs when they have to endure ads every few minutes. For text content, the quality of most online articles is poor and often cluttered with advertisements. A prime example, though for a different reason, is recipe websites. Many readers do not care about the backstory presented at the beginning, so we have all learned to skip to the main content. The continuous bombardment of irrelevant information teaches us to disregard what is not deemed important. This has been exacerbated by persistent advertising, leading us to evaluate whether something deserves our attention as quickly as possible due to the multitude of distractions vying for it. Story 6. You are using an application that awards points based on the number of banana lengths you scroll. Are you serious? Story 7. Teacher here. I can see this clearly. It's the reason why we are implementing a phone ban soon. I see my students working for a few seconds, only to immediately check their phones and go on Instagram Reels or TikTok. I also notice them swiping through content if it doesn't appeal to them in the first few seconds. I feel awful for saying this because I remember when adults said it about my generation, but I need to be honest. It worries me a lot. Story 8. I don't feel it's accurate. I heard a brain specialist and cognitive scientist state that human physiology has changed very little in the last 250,000 years regarding attention span. Story 9. I skimmed through a study a while back that found consuming large amounts of short-form video content had a measurable impact on brain function, specifically attention span. I believe it. The advertising industry loves it. One thing I found helpful is limiting image and video-based social media. I can't imagine the challenge this poses to parents of young children. Story 10. Well, I look at a squirrel. Carl Sagan. The dumbing down of America is most evident in the slow decay of substantive content in the enormously influential media, the 30-second sound bites, now down to 10 seconds or less, lowest common denominator programming, credulous presentations on pseudoscience and superstition, but especially a celebration of ignorance. Story 11. I haven't heard this, and I doubt it can be tested or replicated in a meaningful way. It sounds like a headline from a trend-focused website. Story 12. No way it is 47 seconds in 2025. Maybe if you include all age ranges. Between 13 and 20, I would estimate 4 to 10 seconds maximum. Story 13. For those interested in attention spans dropping, research shows that there is a decline in the duration of focused attention among individuals. Story 14. I find myself increasingly frustrated by content. The prevailing idea seems to be, I will assume you know nothing about the subject and spend the first hour telling the full history before presenting my idea. It's infuriating. Just get to the point. The economist Richard Wolff often falls into this pattern, but many others do the same. It makes it hard to sit through. Story 15. I will watch short content, but honestly, I prefer longer videos. Hour-long videos? Yes, please. 1 times speed? Of course. Short content pretty much requires you to stay focused, while with longer videos I can relax and maybe even do something else on the side while I listen. Regarding playback speeds, I find it surprising that people can watch content at speeds higher than 1 times, except maybe for podcasts if you're behind and want to catch up. I've only used it on Dungeons and Dragons podcasts when I want to get through the fighting sequences. Story 16. These are not hard-coded. They are a direct result of social media, news delivery in sound bites, and my attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Story 17. It is not surprising. I haven't read a book in a while, and my screen time continues to increase. Story 18. I am very curious about the impact it will have on the length of movies. In a decade or so, nobody will have the ability to watch a full 2-hour movie anymore. Story 19. My life is difficult right now. Please help me reflect on my experiences. Story 20. The internet is making people less able to think for themselves or properly process information. Story 21. Watch any sort of media and count the number of times it transitions from scene to scene or camera angle to camera angle. Story 22. It is a choice. No one is being forced to engage with short-form media, just as no one is forcing fast food upon you. Story 23. I believe it directly correlates to people becoming frustrated and agitated almost immediately if something does not meet their expectations. Story 24. I was born in 1982 and became an adult by 2004. I have been affected by declining attention spans. When I watch a video, if it doesn't get to the point quickly, I lose interest. I tend to watch a lot of short videos because my attention span is limited. I believe this is a byproduct of always being connected and wanting to consume information, and social media plays a role as well. Story 25. On one hand, I think many of us have been conditioned to be impatient, which is not beneficial. On the other hand, I've noticed that if a video is engaging, I have no issue watching it in its entirety. However, for many videos, I often find myself losing interest after about 20 seconds because they take too long to get to the main point. They might lack the ability to deliver concise information, or perhaps they intentionally prolong their content to make the video lengthy enough for monetization. This trend could contribute to our collective impatience, as the rise of social media allows anyone to share content, resulting in an abundance of lower quality media. Story 26. I just read an article about people flying without using their phones or reading anything. Traveling on a plane without distractions has become a challenge. Sitting alone with your thoughts isn't common anymore. We tend to seek distractions. Story 27. Talking to my dad. I believe it. What are your plans for the weekend? Well, I was going to do something on Saturday, but Ashley is busy, so Bob and I will probably just go do something else. That sounds fun. So, are you busy on Saturday? I just told you my plans. It was too long, so I stopped paying attention. Story 28. As someone with ADHD who often contemplates time, I apologize for losing my train of thought. What was the question? Story 29. Advertising appears every 47 seconds. I immediately disregard everything as spam, bots, scams, or fake. Takes a while to find the real information. Story 30. A friend has teenagers who physically cannot watch movies. They either fall asleep or play on their phones and then get upset when they miss a plot point. Story 31. I honestly don't believe that is true. I believe advertising has become increasingly mercenary and that platforms built around short-form, algorithm-delivered content are currently dominant due to this ad-controlled industry. I have spoken to many people under 20 who have attention spans and are reasonably intelligent. They exist, as we all do, in a global culture where advertising and the commercialization of every aspect of human life is now considered acceptable. If I could outlaw non-local advertising tomorrow, I would do it instantly. The world would be better for it. The web would change, but it wouldn't die, and it might stop abusing users so badly. Story 32. It is very concerning and has led society to become much less informed. Especially in modern conflicts, people do not check their sources. They see a video with some text online and take it for granted, feeling emotionally connected to it. This has rewired their brains to accept it as truth instantly. However, when they encounter similar videos from opposing viewpoints, they often dismiss them as propaganda. This causes people to become entrenched in a single opinion and be closed off to alternative perspectives. If you are reading this and have ever seen a video on a social media platform and thought, "Wow, this is incredible. This is bad. This is evil," or perhaps, "Wow, this is interesting. This is amazing. I love this," before quickly moving on to the next video, you may be forming opinions without proper research. It is crucial to investigate and understand the context before accepting something as true. Otherwise, Any opinion you hold on that issue may lack validity. Story 33. Sorry, what? I only read half of that. On a serious note, social media is all I have to say about that. Story 34. First thought. Source? The 2004 numbers derive from a study titled Multitasking Craziness: Managing Multiple Working Spheres. The study examined more than 250 employees working at an investment company that provides information technology and accounting services for a major fund manager. For the 2025 numbers, I cannot find any study. All sources either reference the 2004 study or a podcast interviewing Gloria Mark, the co-author of that study. Despite searching thoroughly, I cannot find the 2025 numbers. Gloria Mark has not authored a study since 2018. My final conclusion is that these numbers may have been fabricated for social media, clickbait. Even the original study, in context, does not reflect society as a whole. It focuses solely on a narrow group of information brokers, which is not representative of the average person. The study itself acknowledges this limitation. Our observations are limited to one field site. It is very possible that factors unique to the organization affect the constant shifting, such as time pressures and the high value of the product. Conduct a study involving 75 teachers, 75 office workers, and 75 dental technicians, and then you might present something worthy of my attention. Story 35. It's getting worse with every new generation. I'm honestly glad I left the education field. In pre-K, things were getting so bad post-COVID. I can't even imagine how they are now. Story 36. I blame Instagram Reels, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. You get your hit of dopamine faster, so the brain loses interest as soon as it is no longer getting that hit. Story 37. It's horrible. It's really bad. Now I cannot tell if I always had attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or if I developed it by spending too much time on Instagram. Story 38. It's no surprise that so many people feel burnt out, anxious, or addicted. We aren't built for this constant stream of artificial rewards. It feels good in the moment, but in the long term, it is rewiring our brains in ways that aren't healthy. Story 39. It scares me as I've noticed it in myself. It is incredibly difficult to maintain focus for a prolonged period of time. I had no issues doing this years ago. Story 40. I have a foreboding of an America in my children's or grandchildren's time, when the United States is a service and information economy, when nearly all manufacturing industries have moved to other countries, when significant technological powers are in the hands of a very few, and no one representing the public interest can even grasp the issues, when people have lost the ability to set their own agendas or knowledgeably question those in authority, when, clutching our crystals and nervously consulting our horoscopes, our critical faculties in decline, unable to distinguish between what feels good and what is true, we slide, almost without noticing, back into superstition and darkness. The decline of American intelligence is most evident in the slow decay of substantive content in the enormously influential media, the 30-second sound bites now down to 10 seconds or less, lowest common denominator programming, credulous presentations on pseudoscience and superstition, and especially a celebration of ignorance. Story 41. It actually makes sense. The whole point of media for years has been to make it immediate, with little to no middleman and a real lifelike experience. One of the ways this was achieved is through a concept called flow, where we become so absorbed in constant media consumption that we enter a flow state of never stopping. It started with television and never-ending shows and commercials around the clock to now include platforms like TikTok that never stop. It's crazy to think that people can't even sit through a 10-minute video anymore without needing another kind of stimulation immediately. Story 42. I believe it. Somewhere along the way, I went from being an avid reader who read 5 to 10 books a week to not picking up books anymore because I lost my reading stamina. I struggle to remain engaged if I am not dividing my attention among multiple activities, such as listening to a video while playing a game. Story 43. I believe it is not about the actual attention span, but more about the individual we are referring to. I am a 1990s kid, and my attention span can still last for about 20 to 30 minutes before I start to lose interest or focus on whatever is happening. Other younger colleagues can lose focus in a much shorter time. Story 44. I feel it strongly in my daily life, and I have started limiting my time online and intentionally engaging in slower activities. Story 45. Can you imagine how much easier it is to control people? Just give them more social media and pornography, and they will comply without question. Story 46. As someone who works at a school, I can tell you that it's starting to harm students' lives because they can't focus in class and end up with poor grades. However, the school makes them pass anyway, or else half the class would fail. I'm worried about how these students will do in life. Story 47. I have deep concerns about this. I am considering deleting all social media and returning to reading paper books and magazines. I find myself struggling to control the urge to use my phone when I am trying to watch a television show, even if I am enjoying the show. Story 48. Society is the issue, not our phones. People offer little to no social benefit. Hate, gossip, complaining, and toxic behavior are the reasons phones became so important to people. It's the great escape. Why do I need an extra attention span when negative influences are always trying to take it anyway? Story 49. Thank you. I've noticed this, and I think I'm going to save this thread with this comment to link it anytime someone plays the "I'm not reading all that" card in reply to a sub 2.5 readable, sincerely written argument or counterargument of mine. I will simply remind them that they are part of this problem. I have a feeling that will sting their egos in just the right way for those types of people. Story 50. You see, the children listen to rap music, which negatively affects their brains with all the hip movement and bouncing. Story 51. I remember when parents talked about how watching too much MTV would lower our attention span. Much of the content on MTV in the 1990s would qualify as long-form journalism in the age of TikTok and YouTube Shorts. Story 52. I understood the first part. What are my thoughts? But could you please repeat the second half? The sentence is a bit long for me to focus on. Story 53. It's as if humanity has just discovered something exciting and thinks, this is so enjoyable. I want to do this all day, every day. What could go wrong? Story 54. Short attention spans distract people from asking politicians and billionaires difficult questions about income inequality, healthcare costs, housing costs, and an exploitative economic system. Story 55. Average is not an effective metric because content has diverged into short 30-second clips and long 3-hour programming. This approach appears healthier than having everything last for 7.5 minutes for commercial breaks. Story 56. It's a crisis. There are mental processes that require longer periods of time and large amounts of information. Focus is foundational to this. This is one of the reasons we have a harmful leader in the White House and why authoritarianism has grown significantly in the past 10 to 15 years. Story 57. Part of the reason this exists is that social media has implemented features that keep people engaged, such as like, dislike, upvote, and downvote. This discourages critical thinking and diminishes the ability to engage in meaningful dialogue on a topic. People are so accustomed to offering a quick opinion and moving on that they are often unwilling to provide in-depth reasoning. Story 58. What are your thoughts about attention spans dropping from 2.5 minutes in 2004 to 47 seconds in 2025? Story 59. The amount of time my wife and son tune me out when they are on their phones and tablets is unreal. I can say entire sentences, and they don't hear a word. It might just be me, though. Story 60. Marketers will see the 47 seconds and think that all our advertisement reels need to be 15 seconds longer moving forward. Story 61. Yes, someone should really do something about this massive issue affecting millions of people. Did you see the last Mr. Kitten video? Oh my gosh, it was so cute. I just saw a new recipe I am totally never gonna try, but I still saved the video. Those poses are cool. I took some screenshots and will try to do them just to build more body dysmorphia. What was I talking about again? Story 62. The irony of this article being filled with ads and pop-ups is not lost on me. They wonder why people's attention spans are declining. Story 63. 47 seconds seems like a long time. I personally know that I have a problem with keeping my phone in front of me, and I am trying to improve on that. Story 64. I am not surprised by this. Idiocracy is coming to life day by day. Anecdotal evidence suggests that since I stopped using social media, except for Blue Sky, I have been spending that time reading articles more often. However, many articles are written for shorter attention spans. I enjoy reading a good 1,000 to 2,000 word article, but they are increasingly rare. The prevalence of poorly written articles and single-paragraph news pieces is disappointing. Story 65. Every day I feel increasingly like the last normal human alive. This is concerning and should worry you. I am not normal. Story 66. I believe this claim is unfounded. The source you provided is an individual promoting his book, and I cannot locate any actual peer-reviewed research beyond the initial paper from 2004. What he measures as attention span is the duration of time spent looking at a particular screen before switching to another. However, why is that the definition? In what manner does that directly measure attention? Isn't it evident that we are encountering far more screens than we did 20 years ago? We were not all carrying smartphones in 2004. Story 67. Meanwhile, I read for 3 hours last night about lightning and supercells after a huge thunderstorm passed over my house. Who has a short attention span? Attention deficit/hyperactivity disorder hyperfixation goes strong. Story 68. Once we had Facebook in our pockets, it was over. Before that, you had to make a real effort to use social media. Story 69. I have noticed an issue with drivers. Attention spans are very short, and people are not noticing when signal lights change or when other cars are at stop sign intersections. I believe we are facing a problem. Story 70. Attention spans have dropped from 2.5 minutes in 2004 to just 47 seconds in 2025, primarily due to non-stop notifications, multitasking, and fast-paced content. Story 71. I feel there are two factors to consider. First, I believe neurodivergent disorders are more recognized nowadays. It's not an epidemic, but there are many platforms for people to share their experiences and for others to relate. That's how I finally decided to be tested for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I resonated with too many videos about it. As these disorders become common knowledge and socially acceptable to discuss, more individuals can identify what is affecting them. The more people that accept this, the more people learn they have anxiety, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, autism, and others, leading to adaptations to the norms of these conditions. Short attention span affects many of them. Now, the second point, I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and I'm fairly certain I have undiagnosed autism, though it's not significant enough for me to pursue a diagnosis. These short-form media platforms absolutely draw me in. I can scroll through TikTok for hours just searching for that next video that makes me laugh. I can spend hours on shopping platforms looking for that next impulse buy that I don't really need. It has become overwhelming how predatory these platforms can be toward individuals with short attention spans. I genuinely believe this is due to the shift in media consumption, and many people do not regulate themselves as they should. While I'm guilty of scrolling aimlessly for hours just to get a little dopamine, there are plenty of times when I simply need to sit and watch a National Geographic documentary and relax. Sometimes that leaves me feeling much better mentally afterwards. Companies are focused on profit and will target anyone they need to boost margins. This has led to a widespread shift toward a faster-paced format, which in turn makes everyone adjust to it. Though I think neurodivergent individuals are more susceptible, eventually this will become the norm for everyone. That's my lengthy opinion on the matter. Story 72. Should there be a link to the source because I am not seeing any? Or is the original poster just streaming thoughts? Story 73. Are attention spans getting worse, or are people filtering through online content more rapidly due to a significant increase in volume combined with a decrease in quality from the rise of AI-generated content? Story 74. Not surprisingly, when you condition the human mind from birth with rapid flashing lights and colors on screens, the typical commercial indicates the limited staying power their minds will have as they develop. Story 75. Honestly, deleting TikTok was one of the best things I could have done for my attention span. That, along with getting an ADHD diagnosis and proper medication, has helped me significantly. Before getting back on medication, just deleting the app helped me get back in the habit of at least trying to focus on long-form media, such as movies and longer shows, and actually forcing myself to read instead of just watching a 30-second video summary. Story 76. It does not seem like we necessarily needed those extra minutes. Attention spans might just be a coping mechanism for dealing with the passage of time in the absence of stimuli. Story 77. It is less about attention span and more about how digital media is reshaping our brains to favor speed over depth and efficiency over reflection. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.